I'm Grace Torie, and you're listening to That Girl the Podcast. Grab a beverage of choice and settle in, because the new episode is starting now. What's up, you guys? It's your girl, Grace Torie, and I'm back with a whole new podcast episode. In today's podcast episode, we are doing a part 2 of the Eras Tour / Taylor Swift versus Ticketmaster, what's going on, how that affects consumers not only of concert tickets, but of everything in the United States, and what we can basically do about it. I'm going to be covering what has happened and how it's continued to kind of get worse and worse and erupt over time. I'm also going to talk about how you can get tickets from what I've found, the research I've done, and my personal experience, the best way to get the cheapest, most authentic tickets, as well as ways to avoid scammers. So basically, we're going to start where we left off at the end of 2022, go up to date on the timeline, and then talk about all the other things I mentioned. So thank you so much for coming. If you want to know like the first half of the timeline, I don't think you necessarily have to know what's going on. Well, maybe that's not true. If you kind of have like a basic understanding, you should be fine. But if you have no idea what's going on with Taylor Swift and Ticketmaster, then I highly encourage you to listen to part 1 of this episode first, which is the last episode I dropped on Wednesday. So be sure to check that out. It's 25 minutes. That'll get you all caught up, and then you can jump back over here. So I'm really, really excited to talk about this with you guys, mainly because it's everything I have been researching for the past couple days as I've been trying to get tickets. I've really just been engrossed with it. It has been like my whole life for the past week or so because, well, longer than a week, probably closer to 2 or 3 weeks, because I've been trying to get tickets. So I'm glad I can talk about it with you guys. And like I mentioned, it doesn't just affect Swifties or Taylor Swift fans. Like, this is a huge thing for the US. It's in the Supreme Court, so that's why you should know about it. Like, you should be informed. So before we jump back into where we left off, I do have to do my life updates. So I guess a lot's happened. I did tell you I had to update you on a lot. So first off, I got a promotion at work. I'm really excited. So I'm going to be starting to train for my new position tomorrow. I'm not going to be doing sales anymore. I'm kind of still going to be, I'm going to be like sales adjacent. I'm going to be doing a lot of like behind the scenes work, like marketing, working with customers from a customer relation standpoint, updating websites for our wholesalers. So I'm still going to be doing sales, but I'm not going to be doing the selling. So I'm really excited for that. I just kind of need a break from being on the phone with customers. So yeah, that is why I'm so excited. I'm also really excited to take on this new role. It's more in line with things I've done in the past. So I'm excited to see where it takes me. I'm just excited for something new. You guys know that I love learning and I love a good challenge. And while I love where I work with my whole heart, I wasn't feeling super challenged in the role I was in. So I'm excited to feel that way again and feel like I'm constantly learning and growing. So really excited for that. Also, just the whole Taylor Swift thing consumed my life. That's a big thing. I might have tickets. I'm not going to like say anything until I for sure 100% have tickets. Either way, I'm going to be tailgating at the Cincinnati concerts. Regardless of if I get tickets or not, I'm going to be outside for both of those. So if you're near Cincinnati, shoot me a DM on @thatgirlthepod and we can talk about tailgating, because I'm definitely going to be there. Like, whether I'm inside or outside, I'm going. And I'm gonna have to have an outfit for every day, and I'm getting into this. Other than those two things, I don't know. I have been practicing a new mindset, and it's been crazy how much I have manifested in terms of money, in terms of just growth, in terms of so many things. Like, I am just feeling all the good vibes right now. So I don't want to talk to you about that mindset in this episode because it could be a whole topic on its own. I'll probably do it in an episode soon. If not, I'll talk about it on my Instagram or my TikTok, probably both. So yeah, that's pretty much it for an update. Before we jump in, don't forget to follow on Instagram and TikTok @thatgirlthepod. Also, don't forget to follow or subscribe on whatever platform you are currently on. If you're on Apple, Spotify, or if you're on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify and you want to leave a review, that would mean the absolute world. Also, don't forget to follow. I'm so close to hitting my goal on Apple Podcasts specifically for followers, as well as Spotify. So please, please, please follow, show your support. It would mean the absolute world to me. You don't understand. And reviews are insanely helpful as well. So I think that's it. Let's go ahead and jump on into the episode. Where we left off on the last episode is that Ticketmaster announced they're going to be selling more tickets using Tickets Today. And I told you guys I wasn't really familiar with Tickets Today, and it still kind of goes above my head. I'm not really sure what it is, but basically Ticketmaster said why they're using Tickets Today is that it's going to be like an additional place to help them sell tickets so that they're going to reduce the long wait times and have less chances of crashing. Like I mentioned, I never heard of them using Tickets Today, but I kind of wanted to follow through with it because from what I could find, they didn't really use them unless it's a behind the scenes thing that's like a plug-in to Ticketmaster and they were using it, but it didn't show any differently on Ticketmaster, if that makes sense. So if it's like a back end thing, then they could have used it, but if it's a front end thing, they definitely didn't because I couldn't find any background on that. I still wanted to include it because it's important, and also I wanted to leave this little quote from the Tickets Today website because I thought it was really interesting. So what it says is, ready to sell tickets with Tickets Today will help you help fans discover the events they'll never forget, from the targeted ad to the final encore and everything in between. Speaking of encores, you'll capture critical consumer data for future marketing efforts and take advantage of quote-unquote sticky engagement strategies that help fans come back. So from this, it sounds like they're mainly used for marketing strategies, which I'm kind of confused about because why would Ticketmaster use a company that is looking to market their tickets? Because everybody already knows about Eras Tour. Everybody already is involved. So like, why are they needing to reach a bigger fan base? Also, they're taking consumer data to improve their marketing. I don't know what that has to do with it either. So I'm not going to say that I'm the expert here because I don't really understand how Tickets Today works. I'm just going to say that unless they're more back end and they're not on the front end, I didn't really see them doing a huge anything with Ticketmaster. However, it does say that they work with Ticketmaster as well as Live Nation at the bottom of their website. So they do something with them, just don't really understand how helpful they were with Ticketmaster because wait times and queues crashing are still issues they have today. So not really sure why they mentioned that. I just felt like I needed to put that in there. And like I mentioned, that was on December 15th, so that was really the last thing we saw in 2022. So on January 18th, the Senate announces that the hearing that Live Nation is being subpoenaed for, the one where Live Nation and Ticketmaster are getting in trouble essentially about laws and things like that, is going to happen on January 24th. So they tell everyone on January 18th, and then a week later it's going to take place. A senator, I don't want to say her name because I'm afraid I'm going to butcher it. Basically, she says that for too long, consumers have faced high fees, long waits, and website failures, and Ticketmaster's dominant market position means the company faces inadequate pressure to innovate and improve. And that was their main reason for having it, is that, like I mentioned in the past episode, Ticketmaster has no competitors, which means that in their eyes, unless they admit to themselves something is wrong and needs improved, there's no pressure on them to improve it. Like, oh, everybody has to pay wildly outrageous prices. Who cares? Because where else are they going to go? Oh, the website keeps crashing. Meh, it's fine. People want to see Taylor Swift. How else are they going to see her? They have to wait in line through Ticketmaster. So since there's no competition to outdo them and basically do better than them, they don't have the pressure to improve because people are forced to go through them, which is why they are having this hearing. Another senator, which I didn't include here, mentioned that this is important because if people can't even enjoy something fun like a concert, how else can this behavior impact other places or other industries like healthcare, transportation, things like that? Like if monopolies become a common thing in the United States, then what else is it going to heavily impact, since tickets have been so impossible and hard to get? So basically what they're saying is we need to get ahead of this while it's something that's not so essential, so that when essential things, like, they don't, I can't talk today. so that essential things can't begin to act this way as well. So on January 24th, like I mentioned, the hearing takes place, and the senators actually quote Taylor's songs throughout the hearing. It was mentioned a couple times, but one example I'll include is that U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal, I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that right, he asked Live Nation's president Joe Berchtold to look in the mirror and say, "I'm the problem, it's me," which, if you don't know, that is a quote from Anti-Hero. So also, if you are confused why I'm kind of jumping back and forth between Live Nation and Ticketmaster, I mentioned this in my last episode, but they merged, so they are the same company now. Live Nation Entertainment pretty much is the vendor, producer, manager, entertainment association that puts on all of the major shows, and then Ticketmaster sells the shows. So is there a little bit of a conflict of interest there? I'd say so. And the issue that a lot of senators have is why did they merge in the first place? Like, they have too much power over the industry. So on March 17th, we're jumping from January 24th to March 17th, Taylor's tour, the Eras Tour, kicks off in Glendale, Arizona. So this is important because now these tickets are being used, which is a huge shift because Ticketmaster is kind of having to shift to having consistent shows every single weekend, as well as a lot of people still don't have tickets. Let's not forget that Ticketmaster also said that they weren't having general sale because there were only 170,000 tickets left back in November. So keep that in mind. But at the opening of the Eras Tour, Taylor hints at the Ticketmaster fiasco by quoting or saying something like, "I'm going to take a wild guess and say that if you're here tonight, there's a pretty good chance that you went to a considerable amount of effort to be with us tonight. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for wanting to be with us on night one." So basically she's saying thank you for going through all of the chaos and trauma that you went through to get a ticket. Or thank you for going into debt, whichever one you did, because people did both. So 10 days after the tour kicks off on March 27th, 2023, the fans who sued Ticketmaster have their first day in court. Do you guys remember my last episode back in like December, November, when fans said they were going to sue Ticketmaster? Now this is happening. I believe I said there were a couple dozen fans. There were actually 340, so that is way more than a couple dozen. Still not a ton compared to how many people are out there. I mean, there are 14 million people on the Ticketmaster website, and only 340 are coming together to sue. So still a large amount, but nothing compared to the amount of people that went through that. And of the 340 plaintiffs, 10 show up. So one of the 10 says that she hopes this is a turning point for the ticketing industry and change happens. A lot of them are honestly very adamant that they're not there to collect a check because they're all suing for $2,500 each for the trauma and hassle and everything that they went through. They mainly just want this to be a turning point. People see that something's wrong with Ticketmaster and actions take place. One fan said that she was in the queue and kicked out and put back in 41 times, and she still didn't get tickets because when she finally got to the map, tickets that were originally like $49 to $500, 49 is in double digits, and then 500 is in triple, but still not massive, were starting at 1,400 each, and that was in the matter of the 8 hours that she was in the queue. So after this, Ticketmaster actually pushed back to basically say we need some arbitration. Sorry if I'm pronouncing words wrong. I know what they mean. My brain just doesn't work like 90% of the time. So if I'm stuttering or I pronounce something wrong, I apologize. I promise I'm smart. I have 3 degrees. I just am tired, okay? I'm tired. Ticketmaster and scammers have drained me, okay? I'm doing my best. But anyway, Ticketmaster basically pushed to say, hey, let's settle this matter outside of court. We don't need the law to be involved for this. Okay, sorry guys. I had to pause for a second because if you didn't know, my bunny is very chaotic. I have 2 bunnies that live in my podcasting studio / office, and Braxton was being very chaotic. So I had to go get him. He's now with me. If you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, Braxton's here. I know he's made an appearance on the podcast a couple times, but I have him right now. Yes, buddy. Hi. So anyway, back to the episode. Basically, the lawyer / defense for the fans basically said, hey, while the fans are the ones who are suing, and this is about them. They are just basically here to voice the concerns of the industry that go much deeper than just the fans. Like, there are so many things wrong with this. So they brought up a lot of topics. One that they brought up is that the fans having to rush once they get the tickets and having to be super quick, as well as having to wait in the queues for 8 hours for a very, very long time, can lead to them unknowingly agreeing to things like speeding through and not paying that much attention. Also, Ticketmaster's relationship with stadiums, as well as control over transferring the tickets from fan to fan, shows that they're aiming to control and profit off of every step they can in the process. So they're just too much control there, and they're putting fees where they don't necessarily need to, and there's too much going on. So they brought up some really valid points. If you're interested in the case, I'll leave a link down below that goes into it in more detail, but it's actually really, really interesting. I didn't want to bring too much up because this episode is already going to be really long. I have like 2 whole full pages of notes, but it's a very interesting topic if you're into business and monopolies and learning what control they do and don't have. It's a good one to read. Also, another thing that they brought up is that Ticketmaster provided codes for the pre-sale to 1.5 million people out of the 3.5 million that signed up, knowing that they couldn't supply the amount of demand. So basically, they said the reason they couldn't hold the general sale was because they didn't have enough tickets, which we now see is a lie because they're waiting to release tickets until after the show already starts, which we'll get into in a second. But they said they couldn't have the general sale because they didn't have enough tickets to sell because they sold too many in pre-sale. But the issue is, why did they give out that many codes in pre-sale if they knew they couldn't hold the general sale if they gave that many out? Because you couldn't buy tickets unless you had a pre-sale code. So that was a really good point that I hadn't even thought of. So very interesting, and I definitely recommend reading that. I will add the link. Since we talked about the entire timeline, we're going to now talk about the issues going on with tickets since the tour started. So there's not necessarily a date for every little thing that's happened. I'm just going to explain the process of how things have worked since the tours started and the changes that I've noticed. I'm probably not going to get every single change that has happened because there are little things that happen every day. Like, Ticketmaster will change a little thing from one concert weekend to the next. So if I miss one, I'm so sorry. These are just the ones that I've caught and remember and put down. But always feel free to do more research. If there's something I missed, definitely message me because I'd love to talk about it. I get very heated about this. But yeah, so basically since the beginning of the tour, Ticketmaster has been updating, changing, fine-tuning their system to try and remove bots and resellers when selling the rest of the tickets that they said they didn't have. Yeah, remember those? Yeah, they have them and they're releasing them slowly. So basically what happens is, I think it's 10 days before the show. It might be 9 days, but it's around that time. They release codes like a couple of days before that 9 or 10 day mark to verified fans who either didn't get a code in the first place, or I think if they couldn't buy, they also get one. So not every single verified fan gets one, but a select few do get them if they signed up back in November. So of those, on the 9 or 10 day mark, they get to go on Ticketmaster and then they go into the queue and they can get tickets. It sometimes works. I haven't heard of it being 100% successful. They don't release enough for everyone to get one. So it just kind of happens. But nice, cool. I guess that's cool. After that, random drops start the Tuesday before the weekend shows. So Taylor does shows on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes she only does 2 shows, but for the most part, she does one on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Regardless, it's a weekend show, 3 days, 2 days, whatever. So the Tuesday before the shows is when the first random drop happens. And how it works up until recently is you're not told when they're happening. And if you do happen to be on the site right before a random drop is going to happen, the site goes from sorry, there's no tickets available to join the queue. Once you hit join the queue, you get to go into a queue, and it's always 2,000 or plus people in it. So it caps off at 2,000. So it says 2,000 plus, but there could be 20,000 people in that queue and you don't know. So once you get into the queue, then once the drop starts, you get released slowly into the queue and can get tickets. So if you're not one of the first like 100, maybe 200 people, you're not going to get a ticket. Let's think about that. 200 people, 20,000 people in the queue. Your chances of getting a ticket. Let me just do a little quick math on my phone real quick. I'm tired. I don't want to just like do that. I know that it's not always 20,000 people. It's less than that. But your chances of getting, if there's 200 people and 20,000, frick, I can't do math. Hold on. Is 1%. Nice. So if there's 200 people and then there's 2,000, you have a 10% chance? Either way, odds are very, very low that you're going to get tickets if you go that way through the random drops. I am very stressed with them. A lot of people, so my shows, anyone that I really could go to other than Nashville is later in her touring season. So I've kind of been practicing with the earlier ones, and I've never gotten on the map when there's still tickets on there. Unless you are like looking on the map full time, you have your computer pulled up full time and you're refreshing it, you're really not going to get it, because people have bots that go through the website and they are programmed to just buy tickets when they pop up, and you're just not going to be quicker than a bot. That's not how it works. So, anyway, the random drops start that Tuesday and go all the way up until, so she usually goes on at 8 and tickets will go until like 9. So they're still dropping tickets randomly until 8:30 or 9. Let that sink in. Tickets that they quote unquote didn't have. So let's talk about all the issues. No one is told when these drops are going to happen is the first issue. So you have to stay on Ticketmaster. If you are not constantly refreshing on 24/7, you're not going to be in the queue. Like, I'm sorry, you're just not going to be at the front of the queue. Do you know how hard it is to do that? Like, for me, I'm not constantly on the Wi-Fi, and it doesn't really work unless you're on Wi-Fi. I tried to do it while I was driving the other day, and I wasn't on my phone, but I had the queue open because I was in line, and I was coming home. I was like 10 minutes away from the house, and it wouldn't let me like stay there because I didn't have Wi-Fi. So that's one issue. So you're just not able to leave the house. Sorry, not today. 2, you have to go into the queue/waiting room before getting to the map, which is only available right before the drop. So they recently, for these shows that are happening this weekend, abolished the queue/waiting room from what I know. So you go straight to the map. There is no queue anymore, which is cool. So what you basically have to do now is sit on the map and then just constantly refresh the map, and once blue pops up, you buy the ticket. But what I've heard is you are not able to do that because now it's even harder to get tickets because there's no queue only letting a certain people amount of there's no queue only letting a certain amount of people in at a time. It's basically a free-for-all. So there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that see this one ticket for sale at one time. That sounds like a very bad idea. I feel like they're either going to accidentally sell the ticket more than once, one person gets it, there's a glitch in the system, no one gets it, things like that. So that's a new thing they're doing, is they took out the queue in the waiting room, but I feel like that's almost worse. So like I mentioned, bots are assigned to the website that are put on there by resellers or whatever, and they can still buy immediately and be quicker than any fans. They have implemented some verification systems that kind of ask you, like, are you human? Click on this, type this, and that's cool, but the bots are still getting through, so all it's really doing is stressing the people out and slowing them down because the bots can still get through. So now you're slowing the actual people down and the bots are still getting through. So that's another issue. Like I said, they only release a few tickets at a time, and the drops are open to everyone, so there's no codes, which, not a bad thing. I mean, I didn't get a code back in November. I didn't sign up, so I had to wait until everyone can. But there's no, like millions of people can be on there, and it goes until 8:30 to 9 after the show has started. Not to mention, these prices are still $800 for a ticket, $400 for a ticket. They're still very expensive, even though the show's already started. Like, Taylor's already on stage, which means people are literally going to the stadium and sitting outside hoping they can be that 1% that gets a ticket. Resellers also don't stop until 4 hours before the show because you can't transfer tickets that quickly on resale websites. Like, you're not able to do it in that 4-hour window. I think that resale websites stop selling 4 hours before the show. I don't remember, but there's some technical reason where resellers cannot sell tickets that close to the show. So if it's 4 hours before, they do drop off, which gives you more of a chance, but there's still so many people. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the Philly or Pittsburgh show where there were just like 20,000 people outside the stadium just tailgating because all of those people wanted tickets and couldn't get in. So that's where we're at right now. Obviously, scammers are a huge issue as well, because if you don't go through Ticketmaster, you have to go through resale, Facebook, social media, or the stadium directly. So lots going on there. We're kind of going to shift gears, and this is where we're going to talk about ways to buy outside of Ticketmaster. So like I mentioned, social media, by that I mean Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, then also resale websites, and the stadium. Best ways to get tickets. I personally do not think you should rely on Ticketmaster. The only reason why I think you should is if you don't have money to spend more than like $200 per ticket. However, there is no guarantee that Ticketmaster is going to release tickets for less than $200 a ticket. I've seen so many people on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be, and be like, I want tickets, but I can't pay more than $100 a ticket. And Upper Bowl originally started at $49, so there is a chance, but they have to sell those tickets, and Ticketmaster has been changing prices and jacking prices up based on demand, so there's literally no guarantee that you're going to find that. So unless someone is kind and selling tickets for face value somewhere and they bought them for $49, which is like looking for a needle in a haystack, there's just a really small chance. So I know that $1,000 is expensive for a ticket. I know that $5,000 is expensive for a ticket, and I'm not saying that you're gonna have to pay that, but I don't think you should rely on Ticketmaster unless you absolutely have to and you have no other option. Like, it should be a backup plan because, like I mentioned, there's like a 1% chance you're gonna get a ticket with everyone on the website at once fighting. Scary, like terrifying. So another way is Twitter reselling. There are 2 Twitter accounts that resell for face value. They're very, very hard to get because they sell maybe 4 tickets, whether that's 1 ticket or 2 ticket a day, but it's worth checking into and giving it a shot. So I listed both of them below. I linked them with the references. I'll put them right under that. But the first one is Torie Resell. They actually resell tickets and they put them up and they kind of give you a heads up. What you do is you DM the person who's selling them and they pick someone. So like I said, it's really, really hard. And then the other one is Torie. What they mainly do is post every time there is tickets for sale. So now that there's not a queue/waiting room, that may be a little bit more beneficial because you don't have to be in a queue for a really long time before getting to the map. But again, I don't know if I would rely on it 100%. It's like a unicorn is getting tickets through those 2 ways. But I still have their notifications on. They usually, Torie Resell will usually say like, hey, dropping a Chicago ticket in 10 minutes or something like that, and gives you a heads up. And then Torie is still beneficial if you want to just like give your shot at being on the queue. They've been helpful a couple times when I've been like practicing. So again, they also are really good about updating what's going on with Ticketmaster. They'll tell you what they've changed. Like, that's how I found that the waiting room and queues were dropped and how the maps are going on and just all the horrible things that Ticketmaster is doing, like saying that they were sold out when they're selling tickets for $800 after the show already started. So they're really, really good. They also are really good at calling Ticketmaster out, getting the attention of the Fair Trade Commission. They have done a lot of work for Swifties and concert goers, and they're very consumer oriented. So I recommend checking both of those Twitters out. I'll link them down below. Facebook is a little bit harder. I'm going to kind of go into social media. I haven't tried Instagram at all because I've only found scammers. Reddit has only been scammers so far. Facebook is still scammers, but you can find tickets. That's how I think I've found tickets. I've found a lot of tickets. I just haven't been able to purchase them because they're out of my price range. They're at a show I can't go to. Things like that. But there are some good groups that I'm in, and I can send them to you. I'm not going to link them down below because I don't want to link a Facebook group and then a bunch of people join because it's not mine. Like, I'm not an admin or anything. But if you want to DM me on Instagram at thatgirlthepod, I will link my Instagram down below in my podcast links. If you want to message me on there, I will send you the groups. I just don't want to put it out here in like a public where just anyone can join. But yeah, DM me and I'll be happy to send you the links. I just like, I don't know. I feel weird doing that if I'm not an admin or in charge of it, but I'm happy to do that. So I found a few really good groups where people are really helpful. There's some good tickets on there. I am like interested in trading tickets because I've been looking for tickets around Cincinnati, like Minneapolis, Kansas City, Chicago, whatever, and then hoping to trade for Cincinnati. And a lot of people are doing that because they're like, if I can just get tickets, I can trade them for tickets I want, because it's a lot easier to trade than it is to get tickets. So if you can just get tickets, get them to any show and then trade them, basically. So that's what a lot of people are doing, and a lot of these have good people willing to trade. So definitely check out that as well. Like I mentioned, just DM me and I'll help you out. So the next option, which is probably the most likely to get the cheapest tickets, unless you strike gold and get one of the face value ticket things, is suites or tailgating. So these are done through the stadium. You have to have a stadium rep sell them to you, and they usually sell them like 30 ticket minimum, 12 ticket minimum. There's a set minimum, and one person has to buy all the tickets and then give them to people, and people pay them back. So there is one for Kansas City that I know of. I think they may have one ticket left where it's $1,000. It's in section 136, and there's a 4-hour tailgating put on by the Chiefs beforehand. And so for that section, I looked on StubHub, all the resale websites. You're paying $1,000. You get all the things before they feed you before, and you get a bomb seat. For that exact seat on StubHub / any resale site, it was going for $3,000 to $4,000. So it's a fourth of what you'd pay on a resale site. So I think that those are a much better option. I know quite a few. If you're looking and you know you're going to end up paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 just to sit in nosebleeds anyway, it's better to just spend the $1,000, know that it's going to something authentic. You're not going to be scammed. I think it's worth it. I think suites are the best way to go. And like I mentioned, it's the only way you're going to find anything remotely face value right now. Now that I've talked about suites, social media, and Ticketmaster, those are the 3 ways to get tickets. As well as resell, but I don't even mention resell because StubHub, all them outrageously expensive. Let's talk about how to not get scammed, because Facebook, you need to know what you're doing. So I have a list that someone sent out in a Swiftie group that I'm just going to read off. This is what to look for when buying tickets. So if a scammer does any of these things, then it's bad. DM me on Instagram if you want this list as well, and I can send it to you. And then I have a couple of things I want to mention after as well. So the number one red flag is if a person that is selling you tickets does not want to use PayPal goods and services. It is so important that they use PayPal goods and services, because PayPal goods and services can refund you your money. You can't get it back through Zelle. You can't get it back through PayPal, friends and family. You can't get it back through Venmo. A lot of times you're not covered, but through PayPal goods and services, you are covered, and most of the time you can get your money back. It will take up to 10 days, but you can get your money back. Another thing is, it's very important to ask them to send you a screen recording of the tickets where they start in the message with you, go over to the tickets, go into the app, not an email, not a screenshot, go into the app, pull up the tickets, go to the transfer, and type in your name. That's the best way to do it, the most authentic way. And you still should be very, very careful because people can cut and clip things to make it look like real when it's just edited. So if they say they can't send a screen recording, or the screen recording they send doesn't include your messages or anything, definitely, definitely be wary. If they use words like kindly or ticks, as in Tix, they're probably a scammer. I don't know why, but all scammers use the word kindly. Like, please kindly respond kindly, whatever. Most people that are going to be selling tickets for the US shows are a little bit more casual. They don't use formal ways of speaking, so kindly just doesn't fit in. And then ticks, kind of random. They also will start the message by asking how many tickets you want. If they ask how many tickets you want, then they're a scammer. Because if someone's reselling tickets, they're not going to be asking how many you want. They're going to tell you how many they have. So if they say, how many are you after? What are you looking for? Then they're probably a scammer, because they're going to say whatever you want to hear. They're not going to say, oh, I have 2. They're going to say, hey, I have, how many do you want? Oh, cool, I have that amount. Also, if you ask for further proof and they get aggressive, or they have like a very sob story, like there's one person who was saying they couldn't use PayPal goods and services because their sister died. Like, I don't understand what one has to do with the other. But if they get aggressive, start gaslighting you, which they will gaslight you, anything like that, when you ask for further proof, they're a scammer. If their friends on Facebook or reactions are like from a different country, yet the person that is selling you says they're from like South Carolina or something, like a lot of times they're hacking or changing the pictures and name of an account that's not there. So they'll take someone's identity, whether that's through hacking their old Facebook, putting their name, or changing the name and pictures for their own Facebook, all of those things. So if all of the reactions or Facebook friends are people who are like from another country, don't speak English, it's probably scammers, and they're building up their accounts to make them look real. They're impatient or rushing you to pay them. If they're like, put down a deposit, probably fake. If they're rushing you to pay them, definitely fake. A lot of times I ask to FaceTime or call anyone, and we can set up a Zoom meeting, we can do whatever. Like, I'm very flexible, but I need to see you face to face, have a conversation, and know this is legit. If they refuse to FaceTime with you, like I just mentioned, they have Ticketmaster verified on their proof. Ticketmaster verified means that they're a scammer. I don't think Ticketmaster verifies tickets like that. I don't think that's how they do it. If they have poor English and super, super bad grammar, I don't want to come off like, because that itself is not a red flag. Like, if that's on its own, then maybe just be careful. But if they're doing that on top of everything else, then it's like, okay, I should pay attention to that. They have multiple tickets to multiple shows. One thing I did is look at their group activity. So you can see, if you click on their name, you can see in group activity what they've been doing. And if they're posting, have 5 tickets to the show, sister can't go anymore, message me, so upset I can't go, on a ticket for Pittsburgh, or on a post looking for Pittsburgh tickets, and then Cincinnati tickets, and then Chicago tickets, and then Kansas City tickets. And they just copy and paste the same thing on all of those posts, which, trust me, they do. They're a scammer, because they're not going to have tickets to multiple shows. Like, sis, we can't even get tickets to one show. Like, I just want 1-2 tickets to one show. So if they do that, then they're a scammer. Their Facebook name doesn't match their profile link name. So if their profile link says a different name, they're a scammer. They claim they're selling below face value. I'm sorry, no one is selling tickets below face value. Absolutely not, because everyone knows that you'll pay at least face value, even if they're in a jam and they have to sell tickets really quickly. There's people selling tickets for an hour before the show because they got into the queue and bought tickets just to be nice, because they didn't want resellers to get it, or they didn't want bots to get it, or they didn't want someone to get it who doesn't essentially deserve it. Swifties are being very protective about tickets, and people are going in and buying them just to go on these verified, on the Facebook groups like I'm in, where I know they're real, and sell them, or to sell them on Eras Tour resell on Twitter, On those places, they're specifically buying them and reselling them an hour before, and they're selling them at face value, and they're selling immediately. Like, people are not going to sell for below face value. The same tickets that they are selling are on resale sites. Obviously, that one's a bit dead giveaway. Do your homework. They will go through the admin, but the admin is also a scam. That's an issue that I've seen is scammers will start Facebook groups where the admin's a scammer, and then they'll be like, well, the admin approved, and the admin's like, yeah, I approved, but they're in on it together. They've had a hard time selling their tickets. They're not going to have a hard time selling their tickets. They're literally, even if the tickets aren't real, I'm sure they've scammed 20,000 people already. Like, people are scamming and getting scammed out the wazoo. You search their name on Facebook and scam posts come up. People will usually screenshot them and share them on Facebook groups and be like, don't buy from this person, they're a scammer. They claim they'll transfer the tickets to your Apple Wallet. If they don't send them to you through Ticketmaster, they don't transfer them through Ticketmaster, they still have them, which means if they get there and get into the gate before you, you can't get in. So they'll try and sell them multiple times. One good thing that people have been doing is asking them folklore or lover side, because the concert isn't divided by folklore or lover, but people are asking that to basically check, because if you had tickets and you genuinely were excited to go, you don't know if it's folklore or lover. Or if you're not a scammer, you'll probably respond and say, honestly, I don't know. But if they respond with either, it's a scam. And I've seen people do this a ton of times, and they very, very confidently respond folklore or lover every single time when it's a scam. They ask if you have a Ticketmaster account. I mean, I guess if that's like a loan, that's one of those where if it's a standalone, it's probably like just proceed with caution. But if they ask if you have a Ticketmaster account, that's one where if it's with other red flags, be wary. But if you already have been talking for a while and they're like, hey, what's your Ticketmaster so I can transfer? Yeah, I saw a scammer do it to change the subject, so that's one thing to be wary of. Their proof email says you're in with their name, so the real emails don't say the name on it. It just says, like, you've got the tickets or something. It says, like, one thing on a blue header, but a lot of scammers have one that says you're in blank under it, and it's the fake name. It doesn't say that at all in the real emails. If you're local, they refuse to meet in person, obviously. That's a big one. The seller sends a donation link via PayPal. Do not click any links for PayPal. If you pay through a link, they can make it so that it's not goods and services. The only way you should pay through PayPal is if you go on your PayPal, type in their email, and click goods and services by yourself. You should not be like using the link, because they'll send a donation link and you won't get your money back. The screen recording proof glitches or it's not in real time. Pay attention to the time zone that they're in. Pay attention to glitching. Pay attention to anything like that. It should be smooth. Should be the time zone you're in. They should be talking to you. Nothing weird should be going on. Usually they'll go to their home screen. Anything sketch going on. Be very careful. So in terms of resale sites, because you can still get scammed on resale sites, they can say they have a ticket and they don't, because they're not verified through the resale site. So they can say they have a ticket and then they don't actually have it. The best website that I have seen that has been the best about giving people tickets if they get scammed or if they're not in the section they're supposed to be or whatever is StubHub. StubHub usually steps it up and gives them people tickets if they get scammed out of them. So definitely go through StubHub if you're going to do resale. Basically, the last thing I want to say is so many people are willing to help verify, especially in the groups I'm in. I can get you involved if you want me to. Invite you to them, send you the links, whatever you want. But people are willing to help you. Swifties have been so good about helping each other get tickets and not getting scammed. I love the community and how kind everyone is, and we all just want to support Taylor Swift, and that's what we're here for, and everyone's mad at Ticketmaster, and I've learned so much just by being around them. So I encourage you to do your homework. You need to be researching everything about these shows, because if you're just like expecting to willy-nilly get tickets, there's probably a very, very small chance you're gonna get them unless you're just the luckiest person ever. And it sucks. I know it shouldn't be that way, because, you know, it's great. Like it's a concert. It's not the end of the world. It's literally not that deep, but Ticketmaster made it that deep. So that's pretty much it. this episode is going to be so long. It's going to take me so long to edit. It's already 10 p.m. I'm so sorry if I don't get this up by midnight. But I love you so, so much. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to keep this short and sweet, but don't forget to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at thatgirlthepod. Follow, like, subscribe, whatever platform you're on, you know, do all the things. It really helps out my channel. Like I mentioned, don't forget to leave a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Really, really, really means the world. Blows up my podcast. It's the sweetest thing ever. Let me know what show you're going to down below if you have the option to comment. If not, go comment on my Instagram. I want to know. I have a part 1 picture up that's Taylor. Go comment on there, and I want to know the tea. If you've already been, if you haven't gone yet, let me know the tea on how you got your tickets, how the concert was. Tell me everything. I have no one to talk about it with, so I'd love to talk to you about it. But that's pretty much it. I upload every single Sunday and Wednesday. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next podcast episode. Bye, guys.